Buckle up for another episode of Ghostfacers, a supernatural rewatch podcast. My name is Richard, and sitting shotgun, as always, is my brother in podcasting, Reed.
Hey.
Whoa.
I started going too low too early in these episodes. I don't know what I'm going to do when we get through a couple of seasons.
Go reverse.
Hey.
Hey guys.
Only dogs can hear it.
Oh.
Yeah, just like what we're talking about in this episode, you won't be able to hear my hey, just like you can't see a Reaper.
Whoa. But you can see Dean laying in bed.
Ooh.
I mean, you look kind of sick.
Yeah, like in a hospital bed. It's not like sexy.
Oh, but I want to play doctor.
Oh no.
Let's get into it.
Ghostfacers! We visit ghosts, when others will not, we're ghosts! Ghostfacers! Stay in the kitchen when the kitchen gets hot! Ghostfacers! We face a nightmare, we face a dread! Ghostfacers! We face it faceless, we face it dead!
Welcome to Ghostfacers. Today we're discussing... Well, I guess it would be nice if I could touch Dean's body.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, yeah, Dean's body. Not yours.
Because we're talking about episode 12, Faith, the Faith, the Faith. Airing January 20... January 17th, 2006. Written by Sarah Gamble and Rael Tucker.
We love Sarah Gamble.
Sarah Gamble, I mean...
So good.
One of the best writers of the show, for sure. Directed by Alan Kroger. Alan Kroger, yeah!
Yeah, he's the lead singer of Dime Side.
Always was a really dumb man. Never was a rich man.
Look at this video! Could you imagine just the depressing state of your life if you were in a knockoff Nickelback band?
I mean,
Nickel
it
band.
could be a nickel band, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're no more Jarl Rock, they're nickel bands.
I think if you're like out there making a Nickelback cover band or a tribute band, you should call it Nickel Band.
I mean, that's half of the music, especially on the like streaming episodes of the first season.
It's true, actually, that like where they didn't have the rights or whatever. It's true. It's a lot of that kind of Jarl stuff. That's right where I live, baby.
Absolutely. And I think we were right because about everything we said in the last episode.
We're always right. You heard it here.
This episode was viewed by an estimated 3.86 million viewers.
Oh, down again?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, but last episode was good.
Yeah, I mean, slightly up from last episode.
Oh, is it up?
Slightly.
Oh, sorry, okay.
But like...
Only slightly.
I mean...
But we're down in the threes.
Those apple orchard people were really pissed off.
Man, what if they don't make it?
The apple farmers are going to sink this ship.
I've always said that.
Yep. You don't mess with the dairy farmers or the apple farmers.
Fisheries, forestry, and apples.
I mean, how good was that fucking Micmac thing, though, the other day?
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Love that they were like, oh, you won't let us into your fishery? Well, we're going to buy it.
Yeah.
The full thing.
Yeah.
Incredible.
If you don't know what we're talking about, any non-Canadian listeners, look up the East Coast fish debacle that's been going on in Canada.
Yeah. That was great. I did enjoy seeing that.
Next segment here, one of your favorites.
I do. Well, it was until last week. Last week really let me down. And I really hope that you never let me down again.
You're my brother. I could never let you down. That's right. International titles.
All right. Let's have it.
So the Finnish title is Faith Healer.
Okay.
As well as the German.
Sure.
The Italian is The Healer.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
A little mysterious like that.
The French is Magie Noire.
Magie Noire? Like black magic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Which, like, gets mentioned once at the end of this episode.
Yeah.
And just sort of like like in a conversation, someone says that.
Black magic is like, that's a good title, though.
But the Hungarian one.
Oh my god. Come on, Hungary.
In the grasps of evil.
Holy shit. I love when they're not even close. That is such an escalation from Faith or Faith Healer in the grasp of evil? Oh, Buck. Man, TV is so much better in Hungary. Huh?
I know.
Or they amp you up too much,
Yeah.
and then you watch the episode and be like, yeah, it's fine.
I don't know if it was the grasps of evil.
The ultimate showdown, a.k.a. the 2020 Summer Olympics.
Yeah. And TV Guide describes this episode as a faith healer is dealing with forces beyond his control, and Sam and Dean must find a way to destroy a Reaper that is doing the healer's dirty work.
That is right.
Featured music for this episode, of course, Don't Fear the Reaper by the Blue Oyster Cult. Put my pants on like every other man.
One Dean at a time.
Oh. This plays when the Reaper kills the girl in the woods, unless you're watching it on the Netflix version, which it does not play.
Okay.
It's like some off-brand shitty nickel band.
Oh, okay. Right.
Before we get into talking about our thoughts.
Sorry, is that the only
Yeah,
featured
that's it.
music in this?
It's one
Just
song.
one song?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the right song.
All right. I mean,
Yeah.
that's how you choose it for that episode. So before we get into our thoughts about today's episode, let's open up Dad's Journal and talk about some of the real world lore about today's monster.
That's right. Let's see what the lore says about faith healers. There are other monsters. We've talked about, there's a Reaper in this episode. There's another monster mentioned, but the real monsters are faith healers. And I wanted to talk about them because there will be other opportunities for some other things.
Well, like we said, the humans are always the worst characters.
And almost always that is true.
This kiss.
Oh,
Faith healer.
Yeah. God damn
I'm
it.
talking about.
So, what is faith healing? It's it's the practice of soliciting divine intervention through prayers or gestures in order to get some sort of medical benefit, like curing disease or disability or something like that. There are lots of spiritual practices around the world that believe in the power of channeling faith or in healing power of prayer. It's not specific to any one culture, but the idea of faith healers, the way we conceive of them, is rooted in that very evangelical, Christian, American kind of version. A 2004 poll by Newsweek or some publication like that found that 72% of Americans believed that praying to God could cure someone of an incurable disease.
Oh my God.
That doesn't mean 72% of people would forego treatment.
Yeah.
Although that number is also pretty high. But 72% of people thought that could work. Which, I mean, power to you if faith gets you through, but my God. So, how? What's the process of faith healing? How can people do this? A lot of people say that it's the power of God or something working through them. But it could also extend to self-directed faith healing. Things like praying by yourself or making a shrine or doing a pilgrimage to a religious site. That counts as faith healing, right? People who, go to the Wailing Wall and pray or stuff like that. That counts as faith healing too, even though it's self-directed. In the Catholic faith, faith healing tends to involve a very specific targeted prayer to a patron saint with sort of known for healing, or to Saint Jude, who is the patron saint of lost causes. My aunt always used to say she'd pray to Saint Jude when she lost her keys.
That's funny.
Yeah. The evangelical Christian thing that we were talking about, that faith healing often involves this practice called laying hands. You've seen it on TV, put a hand on a forehead or hands on your face or something like that. And it's supposed to be that divine power is moving through you and physically into...
Love some laying hands from Dean.
Oh, God. Yeah, he can heal my faith. But Here's the thing. So in April 2020, there's a Washington Post article that outlined a shift to phone-based faith healing in the wake of COVID-19.
What?
There's a slight irony in that. Like, these people were saying, like, it moves through me into you. The gesture is part of it. And then you go like, oh no, we can do it over the phone.
It's like the whole time you could have done that.
You know what I mean? Like, there's little cracks in the facade. I think a lot of these sort of faith healers thought of as charlatans by people not in there with them. There's some, you see those things where people faint, right? The energy in the room is big and they go, you're healed.
Yeah.
And people faint. And there's been a lot of research into like, why would you faint if nothing is actually happening? And it's kind of tied to idea of hypnosis. Not that the people doing it are actually hypnotizing you, but they're like, what are the circumstances? Is the room hot? They've been whipping everyone up into a frenzy all day, like you're expending energy. There's a cultural expectation that is what you do, and then that is psychosomatically programmed into you. They're like,
well, that happens.
There's a lot of like psychology that goes into what could just make people faint, if not the power of divine intervention.
I mean, that's how a lot of those, like did you ever have it when they come into the high school and they do the
like a hypnotist or something?
And stuff like that. Yeah. I mean, a lot of that.
And there are people that are legitimately more susceptible to hypnotic suggestion too. Like that, there are some people that can fight it more than others. It's a real thing.
But belief is a huge part of that as well.
Belief is a big part of it, right?
I mean, there's a lot of like scientific evidence to back believing something strong enough could actually have positive impact on it.
Yes, and also can just make it manifest.
Yeah.
So, if you believe that this power will flow through you and you will pass out, with the other factors, you could convince yourself to get weak in the knees or things like that.
But also convince your body to fight harder for something, or like people have often, like, I mean, that's where a lot of the sort of like super strength comes from when like children are like their body fills with adrenaline and your body, because you're communicating with your body through your brain going, I need you to do this thing.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. That one is slightly different because that's like an autonomic reflex, like a fight or flight thing. But yeah, it's the same kind of principle. So claimed healing from these things includes reports of healings of blindness or deafness, diseases like HIV, paralysis, arthritis, speech impediments, from like the banal to the very extreme.
Wow.
It's very important to note that there is this feels important for me to say, there is zero statistical evidence to suggest that the power of faith as a healing technique is effective. And in fact, there's a mountain of evidence and case studies of people who have refused proper medical treatment in lieu, like, because they have turned exclusively to prayer and to faith healing. However, like you were saying, there is some evidence to suggest some psychosomatic effects of prayer, including increased morale and reduced perception of pain. And those things do have physical impacts on your immune system. So it's not to say that there isn't a benefit to prayer, but it's likely not the benefit people believe is happening.
Yes.
It's not the intervention of God, but there is something to be said for things that keep your spirits high, keep you wanting to fight. You hear about people that like, they died of a broken heart. They gave up. That's a legitimate, real thing.
Yeah.
And that is tied to this. So there is a form of, I guess you would call it faith healing.
Yeah.
Which is that it can help bolster actual medical healing as well, which is sort of interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. Look at that.
Yeah.
Today's monster is humans.
Yeah. Today's monster is religion.
Oh my God. I mean, I'm sure that's coming at some point with this show. Well, before we actually start talking about scene by scene with this episode, we do have a few behind the scenes stuff to talk about.
Let's have it, yeah.
So the first, Alan Kroger is misspelled as Alan with an EN instead of an AM, which is the correct spelling.
Right.
In the CW's official press release for this episode.
Okay.
Small, but...
That sucks.
Yeah, it's kind of just funny. Here's an interesting one. We've talked all season about episodes that Kripke is not proud of.
Oh, really? This one?
This is Eric Kripke's favorite episode of the first season.
Oh, okay, the opposite.
Yeah.
This is what Kripke considers to be peak first season Supernatural.
Yeah.
Interesting. And I still can't believe he fucking just forsakes Wendigo like that. You hear me, Kripke?
Because you're clearly listening to a podcast, like the
Could you
30th
imagine?
podcast about
Can you imagine
the show.
he's driving to work. He's like, I'm going to work on The Boys season 3. And then he hears it. He's like, do you know what? They're right. I really let the fans down by throwing Wendigo under the bus. I have to make a call.
I'm putting the Wendigo in season 3 of The Boys.
Oh my God. Soldier Boy fights a Wendigo.
Oh my God. Finally, I'm going to do this right. Final piece here. Fun fact, this episode was beset with constant rain, with most of the vehicles having to be towed because they kept getting stuck in the mud.
Wow. Yeah, I guess a fair amount of it takes place in like a field.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, fun piece of information there.
Man, it's hard to make TV. Don't let anyone like make you think it's easy.
No.
TV's insanely difficult to make.
Absolutely.
It's all of the things that are difficult about film, plus you have to do it every week.
And you don't
for 9 months.
You don't get months to do a single like scene.
Yeah, it's wild. It's crazy that anything makes it.
Well, exactly, right? All right, let's jump in.
So wait, we're back to the 22
we get 22 years again.
It was only... Is it just because they had like a cold open idea for the last one?
That's exactly why.
But that doesn't... There's always a cold open and then you get the supernatural title card, right? Because that's where you get like the blood spatter thing. Title card will happen. So why didn't they do 22 years ago the last one? Weird. Crazy. So yeah, we're getting the little recap.
So now we get into the cold open, an abandoned house. Dean and Sam pull up to a house.
Very abandoned.
Yeah, they pull up to the house and are armed with tasers to go in after a rawhead.
That's right.
A type of monster which we never hear from again. The Netflix description of this episode states that Dean is injured battling a demon, when actually it's a rawhead.
Yes.
So in Netflix, it actually it doesn't even say it's a rawhead. And this is the first and only time Dean and Sam meet a rawhead, as Dean calls it. The traits, apparently, it kidnaps and eats small children.
Yeah. And
might be only killed by using an extremely high voltage of electricity, about 100,000 volts.
Yeah, it's a sort of boogeyman kind of creature.
And it looks awful.
Yeah, it does. It's surprising that it's kind of like just the throwaway setup for this episode, where it's like they have to go fight it just so Dean can get hurt.
Yeah, they burn a monster, basically.
Because it never comes back.
Yeah, I wonder if it's...
There's, I think, the odd reference to it maybe later, but yeah, you never, see a rawhead again.
Did you read anything up of it before?
Just a little bit, but there's not that much. But
is it a real thing, or is it something that, a real thing? But
it is, but it's also riffing a little bit on, the Baba Yaga kind of stuff and those sort of things. So yeah, Dean tases this thing. Or tries to. I think he might have missed.
Yeah, they go into the basement and they find 2 children in a closet and lead them out. They head up the stairs when the creature grabs Sam through the stairs and Dean fires at the creature, misses. Dean sends Sam out with the children while he goes after the rawhead.
Yeah, and Sam tosses him his taser because Dean spent his.
And Dean manages to taser it. But it's standing in water along with Dean, and conducted electricity injures him as well.
Yeah.
So this opening scene with the taser doesn't depict the behavior of electricity accurately at all. Dean fires the taser, electrocutes the demon, and the electricity passes through the water and shocks him as well. Electricity always takes the path of least resistance, and in this case, the demon's body. Even though some of it did go through the water, which would not be anywhere near enough current to electrocute a person.
Yes.
Because fresh water is not particularly conductive.
Yeah, you need salt water for that, yeah.
It would just go out one leg and through the other. The last thing it would do would be to enter Dean's body. Not to mention that there wouldn't be any sparks either.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, there's actual lightning bolts. He looks like one of those, science fiction, kind of things. While it's happening.
They're at a hospital. Sam is at the hospital handling insurance and covering
as Mr. Berkowitz.
That's right. Do you know where that name comes from?
No. Is it a reference to something?
Absolutely. Sam uses a fake credit card issued to the name David Berkowitz. David Berkowitz is also the name of a serial killer known as the Son of Sam.
Oh shit!
Or the 44 caliber killer. Later on the show, it is said that Sam Winchester, like likes true crime genre, especially facts about trivia about the serial killers.
Yeah, so cops are there to say, like, how did you find these kids? And Sam gives them, like, a bullshit story about, like, we were driving, we heard screaming. And like, they go, great, fine. And then Sam goes to talk to a doctor, and the doctor's like, the electricity gave him a heart attack, but it's, like, damaged his heart. And the doctor's, like, saying, like, I'm giving him, like, weeks. Maybe months.
He says it so vaguely, though. He's very much just like, yeah, so a couple months. And he's just like, wait, for what? Like,
yeah.
So the doctor reveals that Dean has suffered a heart attack, and Sam heads into the hospital room with Dean. Dean says, have you ever actually watched daytime TV? It's terrible. This line is particularly amusing, seeing as Jensen Ackles' first major gig was as the role of Eric Brady on the daytime soap opera Days of Our Lives from 1997 to 2000. Right. Dean also says that fabric softener teddy bear, oh, I want to hunt that little bitch down. Snuggle fabric softener uses a disgustingly cute and possibly possessed teddy bear puppet on its commercials.
Yeah, so Dean's cracking jokes in that. He's doing the thing where it's like can't have feelings, and he goes like, it's a dangerous gig. I drew the short straw. He's trying to be tough about it, but like it's messed up. Dean's like 26.
Yeah,
and
27.
Even if you have like a lot of people have a heart attack and then move on from it. The doctor gave him a terminal diagnosis. Like, it's bad.
Yeah.
Like, Dean got a bad gig,
It's not that easy. So Sam calls their dad's answering machine and asks for help.
Yeah. So, sorry, is that number for Dean one that you used to be able to call? The one that he says on the voicemail there? Yeah. Oh, that's pretty cool.
I know. So cool.
So Sam is, Dean left a message before where he was like, we're heading back to Lawrence. We're heading home. We don't know. It might be the thing. We don't know what we're up against. Please help. And John didn't show for that, but he did get the message.
Yeah.
Sam is now saying, like,
your son's going to die.
Remember the son that didn't piss you off all the time? He's going to die. Just thought you should know.
But don't worry, because they don't know what we know. The doctors don't know what we know.
Yeah.
About all of the other things involved, so I'm going to figure out a way to deal with it. So he kind of goes like, he's going to die, but don't worry, he's not really going to die.
Yeah. Yeah, Sam, Sam's trying to keep himself strong, too. Dean shows up looking like death, and then he says, I'm not going to die in a hospital even if the nurses are hot. Classic Dean.
That's a classic douchebag Dean from season 1.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love him.
Sam has no luck finding a way to help him, though, unfortunately.
Yeah, because, this is so not a thing they can figure out.
They're calling every contact in his phone, in his dad's contact book. But they've heard about a guy in Nebraska, a specialist.
Dean says, you're not going to let me die in peace. And Sam's like, no, I'm just not going to let you die.
Yeah. So they track down a friend of their dad's, Joshua, in Nebraska, and head there.
Oh yeah, this is muddy.
Yeah.
God, it really works for the episode, but it's funny the idea that like they weren't banking on it.
No.
Because it actually works really well. It kind of shows the desperation of these people on crutches and walkers and that are like trudging through this fucking dangerous mud to get to this faith healer. It's just like a tent in a field. It kind of looks like a real low rent, like, music festival. Just all these vans and stuff parked and people heading towards the white tent,
Absolutely.
And Dean is like, what? I can't believe you did this. This is the dumbest thing ever.
You said we were going to.
And Sam is like, this, we see crazy stuff all the time.
Why is this any different?
Check this out. Is this an episode where we get Dean saying, like, I don't believe in angels?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
that kind of thing.
Yeah. So they go to see, they're going to see a Reverend Roy Le Grange, whose name may be a reference to the ZZ Top song.
I was going to say, is it like ZZ Top? Yeah.
Of course, that's the one you know, really?
I love ZZ Top, man.
Really?
Yeah. What do you mean that's the one I know? I love classic rock.
I know, but I've said ones like this before, and you've like...
I know, but sometimes I don't think it's that interesting.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, Dean perks up once he meets the pretty lady at the entrance to the tent.
That's right. Julie Benz, who plays Layla, played Darla on Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh, yeah.
A show Supernatural sometimes is compared to. She is the first of several actresses from Buffy the Vampire Slayer to make guest appearances.
Yeah.
It's a show that they've definitely shared a lot of guests.
The inside of this tent looks like an old-timey auction, like with like the banners at the front and the podium and stuff like
What's
that.
so funny, so when they first head into the tent, the wording painted Bible verse in the background, Jeremiah 30:17, is incorrect.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They just put something and then put a verse
and
quote.
was not correct at all.
That's funny. It's funny how often that happens, actually. So this faith healer goes up. He is blind. Which I think Dean might point out, like, why didn't he heal himself? but yeah, so this faith...
Great casting. I love this guy.
Yeah, I like him too. I don't know what I've seen him from. I think he's one of those guys
familiar.
Sorry?
He's familiar for sure, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's one of those guys that just is on TV, right? One of those great sort of day player castings. This is certainly an episode with strong day player castings.
Yeah, because
his wife, Layla, a bunch of these extra characters in the episode are very strong.
Because, this is a lot about, this is about faith, this is about desperation. You have to really get some good acting into it.
Yeah, and so he's saying, I don't heal people, the Lord heals people, he points me in the direction, and I'm just, his vessel. All these kind of things you sort of expect to hear in these faith healer tents.
And and Dean makes a comment offhand, it's sort of like, yeah, well, you're picking your pocket.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the preacher's got a good comeback. He says, like, watch what you say around a blind man. We got sharp ears. And everyone kind of laughs. But basically it calls attention to Dean, who is then called up on stage. Dean doesn't want to do it, but he's being called up. Everyone's clapping. They're like, yeah, it's your day. You're going to get healed. And the woman in front is very upset.
Yes.
Layla's mother is very upset because we haven't quite gotten there, but they've been coming a while and waiting their turn, and it hasn't been their turn yet.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Dean's very clearly not even a believer.
So he doesn't even want to come up. He's now going like, all right, I'll fix you. And Dean's like, nah, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And so Sam's like, this is why we came here. They actually picked you. Go up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And Sam's like, smile on his face. He's convinced. Sam is hopeful.
He is legitimately hopeful, but I think even Sam is just like, even if it just makes him feel a bit better.
Yeah.
Like, for Sam, it's just it is trying anything. He is hoping that this is real.
Yeah.
But it's also just like, why not? At this point, right? It's either you die in 2 months or you die in 2 months, but at least we tried something.
Totally. So Dean says to the Reverend, he goes, look, no respect, but I'm not exactly a believer. And Reverend goes, you will be, son. You will be. Clearly a play between Yoda and Luke in The Empire Strikes Back. Luke saying, I'm not afraid, and Yoda saying, you will be. You will be.
Oh, I suppose that, that is. Well, there's always a lot of that stuff. So we see Dean kind of getting weak, kind of looking sort of ill and passing out, going to his knees. Sam's getting worried, but he's not intervening because this is also sort of the thing he was hoping for.
And as Dean collapses to the ground, he sees an old man standing behind the Reverend.
Yes.
Dean wakes up.
Sorry, I just totally saw. I was like, I'll just watch the show. Yeah, so Dean kind of wakes up. He sees the old man behind the Reverend.
Just as he's sort of gaining consciousness. And the old man disappears into kind of nothingness.
Yeah, and then he says, like, I feel fine. Sam's like, are
they're
you
back
all right?
at the hospital.
Yeah.
And the doctor comes up and he goes, like, there's no sign that there was ever any problem. He's like, not a man at your age. You shouldn't have any problem. There was a young man who had a heart attack that same day and died. So the episode reveals that Dean is 27. The line that may indicate that Dean is 27 isn't an actual statement of fact. The doctor tells Dean and Sam, just yesterday, a young guy like you, 27, athletic, out of nowhere, died of a heart attack. If Suan has been replaced age for age in its victims, it might be concluded that Dean is 27. However, the victim chosen to replace the old man in the wheelchair was the oxygen of a very young woman and healthy looking 20 or 30 something year old. So
right. And so that also, we're sort of skipping ahead a little bit.
Yeah.
But we're getting this idea. I mean, it's very clear that by even mentioning it, it's like he survived. Another 27-year-old young guy with no reason to had a heart attack.
Yeah.
It both worked and also something is up.
Yeah.
I mean, we also know something's up because we saw the weird old man behind the preacher, by the Reverend. So Dean is like, something's up. We got to figure it out. I'm going to go see the Reverend.
Absolutely. So we're back with Le Grange, and Dean is skeptical and feels like it wasn't right that he was able to be cured, and goes to talk to Le Grange and his wife, Sue Ann.
So he's also doing his investigating. He says, like, when did these miracles start happening?
Yeah.
And preacher says, I woke up blind. Doctor said I had cancer. We prayed for a miracle.
I went into a coma.
I told my wife, you just keep praying. And the wife is Sue Ann, who we mentioned. Yeah, he went into a coma. Doctor said I wouldn't wake up. And then cancer was gone. I woke up. And other than being blind, he said, you would never know that I even had it.
Yeah. And now suddenly later on, I found out that I could heal people.
Yeah.
Le Grange said, so Dean goes like, why me? And Le Grange says that he picked people because he saw he had purpose and a future.
Yeah, exactly. And again, even in the tent, he says like, God picked you, son, right? Like this healer seems very sincere.
Yeah. In
his belief that he's a vessel for, divine intervention.
Yeah, totally. So now we head to a pool, and Sam checks out the dead man Marshall and notices. So he's talking to a guy that works for this.
Yeah, like he's not going to the pool to see the body.
No, he's checking him out in the way that he's like looking into the guy.
Yeah, it'd be funny. He's like, yeah, we just left him.
Yeah. Wasn't bothering us. We just step over him. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, he notices that the clock is
stopped.
Busted. It's frozen at 4:17.
Exact same time. So he goes, "Is this the same time as when the guy died?" And he goes, "Yeah. Why do you ask?" It's because I don't know. Just a fucking guess. I don't know. Like, what do you mean?
What a funny coincidence. So Dean comes out of the house and Layla's there, and he goes, "Yeah, I'm doing great." And then Layla says, like, my mom wants to talk to the Reverend. And this is where we get some of these frustrations starting to air that, like, they've been coming for a while, and the mom is upset. Sue Ann says the Reverend won't see anyone right now. And, you learn Layla is sick. This mom is like, why the fuck isn't it our turn?
So that's Jillian Barber, who plays Layla's mother, also appeared in 4 episodes of X-Files.
Oh, yeah.
Kim Manners, one of the producers of Supernatural, also produced the X-Files, and the shows are often compared, so.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. Yeah, this mom gives some flack to Dean because he basically, like, stole the place that could have been Layla's in her mind.
It becomes clear that Layla's needs help healing a brain tumor. She has only 6 months to live, apparently.
Yeah.
Layla is resolved, but her mother is angry and upset for Dean for being chosen. Sam checks and determines that every time Le Grange has healed someone, another person has died of exactly the same symptoms. So as they speak, Le Grange is healing another person. So
yeah. I mean, and you certainly feel for this mom. I mean, she's being a bitch to Dean, but also, like, if you were in her position and you were seeing people legitimately healed, and it was never the turn for your daughter, you would also be that angry, you know?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So now we're in the woods while Sam and Dean are talking back at the motel. A jogger in the woods is attacked by the same old man that Dean had seen when he was when he was sort of losing or gaining consciousness.
Right. Yeah, and then we're kind of cutting between Sam and Dean talking, and then the Reverend healing someone, and then this person just out in the woods, like, jogging.
So you're making this connection where they're now really tying it all together, right? They're realizing what's happening, and you're actually seeing
we're trading lives for lives.
We don't trade lives. So good. But this is where it happens, right?
And you see that old man that Dean saw before chase this woman in the woods. He's all wrinkled and stuff. He lays a hand on her and basically is killing her. Her eyes kind of go that sort of milky
Yeah.
gross. Her skin turns gray. And the guy is healed, can remove his oxygen, and he's fine. He's better.
Crazy.
So we cut to Sam and Dean. They say, like, you think it's like the Grim Reaper, like the angel of death?
The actual Grim Reaper.
And Dean says, not the Reaper, a Reaper. And then they talk about how there's Reaper lore, a bunch of different
Leviosa,
cultures.
not Leviosa.
And we will get to Reaper lore. I promise I'm not robbing you of it, but I got a better episode for it.
Yeah.
So there's a thing they're talking about where Reapers stop time, so that might explain the clock, all these kind of things. They're starting to piece it together, but what they haven't pieced out is what is the connection to Roy, to the Reverend?
And they see Sam remembers a cross at the revival show, a clock that recognizes from the death card of the tarot.
Right.
So Dean resolves to kill Le Grange, but Sam proposes that they instead just break the spell.
Yeah, I mean, Dean, blood instrument, Dean, a little bit, yeah. So yeah, that's their plan. They're basically talking about necromancy,
black magic.
Roy using black magic, something to control a Reaper. They've got to figure out what that is, how to break that spell, or failing that, Dean's plan, kill the Reverend.
They're like, we're not going to kill a person, like.
Sam often has to remind Dean of that.
Because he's just like, well, killing's how we solve everything in this family.
Dean's saying he's deciding who lives and dies. That's a monster.
Yeah.
He's like, we kill monsters. He is a monster.
I mean,
ergo.
Also, a lot of their monsters look like humans, so.
Yeah, like.
The line is very thin.
Very, very, very thin. It's thin like the line between Batman, like, breaking every bone in your body and like, but I won't kill you. Yeah. It's like, this is worse.
Like, you gain an extra finger and Dean's like, wow, you gotta go. So they head back to the church.
Yes.
And decide that they're gonna go look for this spell book.
Well, yeah, they're trying to figure, like, how would he be controlling him? There must be an incantation. Maybe we should look for a spell book. We gotta look for some evidence of a spell.
Yeah.
So that we can undo it. So, So, I think
I love there's a really funny moment.
Sam goes to break into the Reverend's house. Yeah.
Sam goes in. I love there's a funny moment when they're first walking in and there's a guy outside sort of like protesting against the church. They're like, right. And they go to Sam and Dean and they're like he hands him a thing and is like, everything he's doing is a lie. And they're like, yeah, keep up the good work. Which is really funny. So Sam breaks in to Le Grange's house to try to go find this thing. And he starts looking around.
He's looking in this very, like, kind of derelict room. Like, we've been in the house already and it looks nice, but this room looks like unused, dusty, forgotten a little bit.
So he goes to a bookshelf. On the bookshelf that Sam takes from the shelf as he's looking for evidence of Le Grange's spell is a book titled Encyclopedia of Christian History, Old and New Testament for Students of Clergy by A. Hreitzak. Adrian Hreitzak was an art department coordinator for Supernatural from 2005 to 2010.
Oh, cute. So Sam finds that book because, yes, this room is dusty, and the only spot it's not dusty is where this book has been pulled out before. Yeah. And behind that, he finds this other, smaller little black book that's got, like,
and it's
runes
got all
and incantations.
Of the hot dates for Le Grange.
Ooh, yeah, and that tarot card.
And his little black book of names.
Yeah. And then, I can't remember what this cross is called, but it's a cross where at the top there's another cross in a circle.
Yeah, I didn't look up that part.
Yeah.
Sam finds a newspaper clippings mentioning those who have died, which Le Grange apparently believed were immoral. The Ford City Tribune article clipping that Sam finds in the spellbook about the athletic young man who died of a sudden heart attack is credited to Leanne Alaschuk. Leanne Alaschuk was a graphic designer from Supernatural from 2005 to 2013.
Hey, listen, if you're already working on the show, you might as well work yourself in.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Sam is building evidence that the people that they are trading the lives for are people that are, like, considered sinners by the church, or people that have called them a cult, or things like
so they believe
things like that. So it's looking like they're targeting, the Reverend is targeting people and using it to kill one bird with one stone, and then the other bird he's killing is not having people be killed.
So they believe that the next victim is probably going to be that protester in the parking lot they passed when they first walked in.
Yeah. Because that was one of the clippings in the book was him saying, like, this is a cult. But they just saw him outside, so Sam's like, it's got to be him, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So finally, Layla is gotten brought up by Le Grange. But Dean tries to stop her, which is like, God, this is such a hard...
This is tough, because Dean knows exactly what's about to happen. Her life could be saved, but he can't let it happen.
And we don't trade lives.
And he's also got to say, like, you can't go up there. You can't let Roy heal you. She's like, you
did, yeah.
Like, why not? It's really, really...
But he also can't tell her why, because it's like, well, okay, fucking...
It's
I'm a hunter. There's things out there. Like, I just found this out.
It's really brutal. It's tough to see.
And this actress always plays this really, really well. This sort of, like, confused sort of...
She sort of has, like, a Sarah Paulson look to her.
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah, you feel so bad. I mean, you know what's happening behind the scenes, but you're like, couldn't you just find out one later?
Yeah.
You know, like that would make you just as bad. You're complicit at that point, but it's such an impossible position for Dean to be in. So we go outside and this guy's running the fuck away from this old wrinkle guy.
Yeah, Sam hears
who is of course a Reaper, but we know is this.
Yes, Sam hears the guy cry out and tries to get him away from the Reaper, but he can't see them.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a thing that I think we figure out in this episode, which is you only see a Reaper when it's like your time.
Yes.
Or if you've just sort of like experienced or dodged death or whatever, because Dean does see the Reaper briefly.
There's a scene right here where the Reaper's walking after him. There's something that every time I see it makes me laugh a little bit. It's just when it's walking between the cars and has to like move out of the way.
It does. It moves. It can't move through anything. It's like, mirror, side mirror.
It made me laugh so hard.
That's true. It is kind of funny. So Dean has to yell fire to stop the thing from happening. Everyone starts leaving. This mom is so like heartbroken. Even Dean is like, fuck.
Like, I really didn't want to have to do this to this poor girl. So they're leading Le Grange out, and Dean calls Sam because he's like, all right, that should have fixed it. But the Reaper is still coming. They think for a second that it's fine, and then the Reaper's right in front of the protester and starts to kill him. So Sam's like, this is still happening. Like, what's going on? There's something that you're missing. So Dean starts looking around inside of the tent and notices that the Reverend's wife is sort of like backed into a corner.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're like, the Reverend has stopped doing his thing. Like, this shouldn't be happening. And you see Sue Ann is like whispering an incantation or something. She's got a cross on her neck that's that same sort of circle-y cross. When Dean breaks her concentration, the Reaper stops. She, cries help, and cops take Dean away. But it stopped the Reaper for now.
Absolutely.
Great look for that Reaper. Real creepy. Very simple, that black suit, the nice overcoat.
Yeah.
The sort of the, like, slick back old guy hair kind of thing. It's
totally.
a good look.
The Reverend's wife does this great thing where she's like, I'm just disappointed.
Yeah.
Like, she's clearly doing this terrible thing. It's like, I'm not going to press charges. Like, God will deal with him.
Well, yeah. And, I mean, we know that she's controlling a Reaper, so like, she can just go after him now.
Well, exactly, right? And he now has to be confronted by Layla, who's again just like, why would you do that? Like, I was so close. Yeah. You can't do anything. It's just so painful. So Dean's in this position where he didn't get the thing done. This person who he cares for is upset with him. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. And she's being, she's upset, but she still says things like, I wish you luck, all this kind of stuff. Dean's, yeah, it's bad. So Dean's hurting. This is a tough one for him.
So the Reverend and his wife go up to Layla's mom and decide that they'll heal her tonight anyways.
Yeah,
outside of the church, they'll get it done.
Yeah. Yeah. So Sam's like, this is like an ancient book. There's a binding spell for trapping a Reaper. Yeah. There's like, he says there must be an altar with like bones and blood and all this kind of stuff that you have to use to trap a Reaper. So we know what we have to find. We know what we have to destroy. And he's like, to go to these lengths. And Dean's like, well, she was desperate. You know, the Reverend was dying. He had cancer, all this stuff. And so now she's in this loop, right?
So they head back to Le Grange's house at night because they know that they're going to be...
Is the sheriff still there? The sheriff's...
Yeah. Because they basically, the two cops were like, if you... Basically, when they leave the tent, the two cops go up to Dean and say, if you come back, like, we're going to put the fear in God in you.
Yes, yeah, that's right, yeah.
So they head back, and Dean even is still going like, can't we just let her? And Sam's like, we can't just let somebody else die.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. I mean, they are objectively making a moral choice, but they are only making a moral choice. There's the other side, which is that Layla has done nothing wrong.
So they see the cops, and they decide that Sam's going to break up from Dean, and Dean's going to distract the cops. So he says, like, you're going to put the fear of God in me? Let's do this.
Very funny. I mean, very good kind of Dean moment.
Absolutely. And so Sam now is trying to find a way into the house without people noticing him. So he's going up to the front door, he's looking around sort of the windows, but they're obviously way too, like, everyone's going to hear him coming. So he starts heading around towards the back of the house. Can't really find a place yet. Dean's still running away from the cops.
There are just so many trailers in that. So you get the sense that there's just a bunch of people who have like camped out on this. They're coming from far and wide to come to this place with the hope of being healed.
Absolutely.
These are not just people that live in town who also congregate at this church or something. These are people that have they've made it their mission to get healed.
Totally.
Yeah. A little Cujo reference there with a dog in the window scaring Dean.
Some great
stuff. I like
stuff.
that. That's funny.
So the dog's barking. They think the dog is just being crazy because they went to go see what the dog was barking at. There's nothing there, so they just assume that everything is fine. But Dean's actually on top of the trailer.
Love that it's very clearly a Canadian RV there. Big fucking maple leaf in the front. Love that.
So Sam ends up finding a way into the house through a basement door.
Yeah, like a cellar kind of thing.
What's funny is this basement is the basement in the first scene and the basement where Sue-Ann conducts her final rituals are clearly the same set.
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
this is clearly the exact same basement.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, we see a picture of Dean with a bloody X through his face. So we know he's the one
who took that photo.
There was a security camera inside the tent. You sort of see it when they go in.
That's right.
So she got it off that footage. Sue-Ann confronts Sam, and he destroys the altar. But then she traps him in the cellar. It's one of those, like, Wizard of Oz, storm cellar kind of things. She's doing this very kind of creepy religious rambling about being chosen to punish the wicked and all this kind of stuff, which is only ever said by people justifying horrifying actions.
100%.
Never said for someone who is
doing
with a spotless record.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Sam breaks the basement windows, and so he can escape.
Yeah.
And now we're going back inside the house where they're doing this...
I don't think I realized that the whole kind of congregation was in there. I sort of thought I remembered it was just like a private thing, but there's like 30 people in this house.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're all around, so may as well use them.
I guess, yeah. Yeah.
And Roy doesn't realize what's happening, so...
That's true.
He probably thinks it's the power of God. Oh, no, they are inside.
They're in the tent. They're not in the house. Yeah.
That's right. Okay. That makes more sense.
Dean sees the Reaper because obviously it's
coming after him. Yeah.
Sent to come for him, which is very scary.
And Sue-Ann prays over her, it's the Coptic cross.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah.
While the Reaper grabs Dean. Both Layla and Dean collapse, but Sam manages to break out and destroy the cross.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not just the black altar. The black altar kind of targets, like who the Reaper's going to go for. Yeah. But it's that cross. So when he breaks it, it breaks the spell. The Reverend can feel that something is different. Layla doesn't feel healed, and all of a sudden the Reaper goes after Sue-Ann, which is like, you trapped me. You're done.
I mean, they make a comment earlier in the episode where it's like trying to do this to a Reaper is like putting a leash on a great white.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Like, you can't control that thing.
And the Reaper goes for it, takes her life force. Again, great look for this Reaper. And he looks more human now that the spell is broken. You can see his eyes.
Yeah.
And things like that. So you realize like what the spell was doing to like keep him in control and things like that. Really, really cool look there. Dean's still hurting. He's broken up about, the fact that like couldn't let Layla get healed. Like he kind of just got this thing.
Because their whole thing is about saving people, right? Like
exactly
hunting things, but also saving people. And they feel like they're not really saving the one person who really needs
it.
Well,
and Dean says, we did the right thing, right? And Sam is like, of course. And he's like, it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah.
And he's right. They both are right. They did the right thing and it doesn't feel like they did.
Both can happen.
Yes, exactly.
So Sam calls Layla secretly, and she shows up at the end to talk to Dean, and Sam leaves.
Yeah.
He's like, whatever you cute kids are going to do.
Yeah, Sam says, I'm going to go grab a soda because Sam is 12.
Yeah. I'm going to get me a sody.
Yeah. I'm going to see if I can get a candy bar.
Yeah. Is that okay, Dean?
Yeah, get out of here.
So
yeah.
Layla goes back. She says she went back to go see Roy, but it's not the same. Like
yeah. She said nothing happened.
Yeah.
So now she is thinking like, am I not worthy of healing?
Yeah.
Like, what she must be thinking, right? To have seen like miracles and that it doesn't work.
Totally.
Yeah. Really, really sad. But Dean does say, Roy's a good man. Because again, the Reverend didn't know. He was in the dark about it.
And this is a moment where, earlier in the episode, Dean's clearly saying, like, he's like, God doesn't exist because so many bad things exist. And Sam goes, well, if so many bad things exist, why wouldn't there be a light side to it? And Dean's like, I've seen nothing but darkness my whole life. Yeah. So, like, how could that possibly be true? But at the end of this episode, he's sitting with Layla and he goes, look, I don't believe in this stuff, but I'll pray for you.
Yeah.
And Layla says, well, then I've already done something good, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, the episode is called Faith. It's all about that. We're watching a show called Supernatural, right? It's about, Dean has to also learn that there's more to the world than monsters and things like that. That's part of his growth as a character.
But it also poses this question in the show, which is like, if there's darkness...
Yeah.
Is there possibly light?
And if there is light, what is it?
Yeah.
What form does it take? Is it anything we recognize? Is it anything that we know? Or is it something else, beyond or else? Yeah. And it's the first time that question gets asked on this show. We've just been sort of reveling in darkness until this point.
But even like the third episode, we see demons, and then we see deities. Now we're getting gods, and now we're getting the Reapers. Like, we're dancing around sort of these types of things. So
exactly. There's some momentum building that way. Yeah, totally.
Which I love.
It's a tough ending for the episode. It's sad. It's hard.
We're constantly sort of, especially these few episodes, we're really starting to expand what is this universe and how big can it really get, which Definitely. I always love. And it's a thing that the show never really stops doing, which is sort of just like pushing on little spaces to make the show just a little bit bigger and expand what your idea of what the show could be. The show never wants to sort of go, this is everything that's in the show. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Which is really hard to do.
Well, yeah. Crazy that there's 15 seasons.
Well, how could there be, right? Like... We just watched the 19th episode of the last season, and we're going, how could there be a 20th?
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
The show never stops doing that.
Yeah, it's pretty wild that way.
So yeah, that was episode 12.
Final thoughts?
Yeah, this episode is really interesting because it's not one that it's not a go-to for me. And sure. I sort of mix it up with a different episode, I think, in the beginning of season 2, the first episode of season 2. I conflate the two episodes a lot.
Oh, okay, yeah. Right, yes.
There's some similarities with those two. But that being said, every time I watch this, I go, oh, this is a good episode because, again, it's the humans doing bad things, which is always
more compelling. For the most part.
Because it's more relatable.
Yeah.
And it's dealing with subject matter that sort of you can confront in your own life.
Yeah.
But then at the same point, this is also sort of expanding the universe again, which the previous episode did, which I loved. You're getting a bit of soft side of Dean, which we haven't really seen since Home.
Well, and that idea that, like, for maybe the first time ever, Dean is encountering a situation that is not black and white.
Which Dean's not great with.
It is not just kill the monster.
No, Dean's not great with that.
A, because it's technically a monster they can't kill. And B, it's like, but if we didn't kill the monster, something good would happen for this good person.
So now you're balancing morality.
It's the first time Dean is wrestling with the idea that it's not that simple.
It's not something as cut and dry as kill the bad guy.
Exactly.
So for me, there's a lot of layers to this episode. I think the Reaper thing is cool, especially the first time you see this episode, you go, Reapers?
Yeah.
Well, what does that mean?
Yeah, like an actual, like, incarnation of death.
Yeah.
Yeah, something really neat there, yeah.
That's sort of not as cut and dry as like, oh, it's a person with these weird abilities, or it's this creature that exists.
And even if they don't go fully into Reaper lore in this, it's not just like, hey, here's like a random god or whatever. It's like, oh, there are Reapers, which means that, like, everyone's death is touched.
Yeah.
Possibly not planned, but there's an involvement of another being in every death.
Which means...
Which is a really big thing to throw out there.
Because it's like, where do they take them? Where do they go? Like,
all these questions start coming up. Yeah, exactly. It's really, opening the doors to a much bigger series of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that this episode really gave Sam the sort of more adventurous role, and Dean really has to play this sort of emotionally touched one, and who has to ask a lot of big questions, which, as a character, he's been sort of the blunt object the entire time, so have to put him in a position where he's the one sort of confronting things and asking questions. He's sort of the actual subject for this one, especially for emotional content. I think it's a really nice sort of flip for the two of them.
Yeah.
I think visually it's a really cool episode. I love the sort of like Southern Baptist look. I think that's such a cool, like, visually for the show. I think it's really neat. It's a great episode with some great actors in it.
Yeah.
It's a high quality show. I might even put it as a 4 then, I guess. 4.
Nice. That's a good mark for it. Yeah.
It's just slightly under the previous episode for me.
Yeah, it's funny. You know, it's sometimes it's hard when you're comparing them because it's got a much different.
It's like 4.2.
It's got a much different vibe, but
4.25.
Yeah, you want me to put
4.25 blood crosses.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to. It's a very different kind of episode, but I think because of all of those, like, philosophical questions, because of the character flip that it does for both Sam and Dean, because it's such a strong day player episode with lots of great sort of secondary, tertiary characters in it, because it starts making everything a little bit more ambiguous, I think I'm going to give it a 4.5.
Whoa!
I think I really like this one.
Wow.
It asks big questions. It demands a lot of performance from Jensen, and he delivers.
Yeah.
It really makes a very difficult moral argument. And, they did the right thing. You do know it, but at the same time, you are also right to side with Dean and be like, it feels like we didn't. We basically condemned a woman to death. Maybe for the greater good, and maybe to stop more of it from happening, but, like, holy shit.
Yeah.
It's big, something to wrestle with. Great episode. So I'm going to give it 4.5 Coptic crosses.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Well, that's it for this week. If you have a note about this episode or a future one we're going to talk about, or maybe you just want to talk about Supernatural with us, send us Dean pics. Whatever you got. You can do so by sending us an email.
Ghostfacerspodcast@gmail.com.
And of course, we're on all of the social media platforms that are appropriate for our age.
That's right. At Ghostfacerspod on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We're not on Kick or TikTok or Parler.
Yeah. Most importantly, Parler. Say goodbye, bitch.
Jerk.
Again.
This was a Brain Freeze podcast.